your new spot.
Thank you.
You like it so far?
Yeah, yeah, I
A
like
lot of
it.
good people there.
Yeah, you know, I stayed right in the Clarence office, so not much changes for me. Mark took over the lease there, so,
Oh, that was perfect.
yeah, so it worked out beautifully.
Good, that's great. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff. Good.
Okay.
Cindy. Yeah. Hi, Larry.
What are you here for? Oh, the first one. Oh, you Keith's? Okay. I don't think so. There was some stuff that had to get done, which I think you did. You got assessed, yeah. So you're right over there. This is close. Not like you go in Orchard Park or something, you know. Who's down there? Who's down there, Pat? Yeah. Oh, meetings? Construction still rolling, or everybody rushing to get things done now?
Yeah, they're
Weather
rushing.
turned.
It's always like this at the end of the year. Everyone's rushing. Rain's definitely not helping us though.
Well, this week especially not.
Yeah. We're wrapping things up pretty good though.
Laser? Because I saw him very here. Then I saw Mason. So I'm wondering, was he just covering?
I think Tony said he's not going to be here. He said it to me. Did he tell you?
You know, he did. I forgot. Yeah.
I might have mentioned it to you,
Yeah,
because he was telling me to remind
Yeah.
you, telling me to remind you. Okay.
Thanks.
I don't know about John, but I just know what Tony said. Middle meeting in November.
In the golf or?
Right off the tip of Key West.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit. Not all. Just a little.
Actually, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, passed away probably 7 years ago. And he did that. He wanted it done.
My cousin, my middle cousin. So there's other three of us. So I said, they're the middle cousin.
Hey, Cindy. Is this on?
Turn this.
I know.
Sometimes I use it because look at stuff. Goodbye. Goodbye. So we
I
got
go in circles looking for the thing.
5.
You're fine. You're four.
All right, let's begin. We rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chair Conley,
Here.
Rebecca Anderson,
Here.
John Lucas, Anthony Gorski,
Anthony has to be excused.
Joseph Keith,
Here.
Lauren Korzenes,
Here.
Michael Ryan.
Here.
And John is here.
John's here.
In the nick of time.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Lancaster. We ask that anybody wishing to make comment do so in writing. We have a few administrative items and then we will get to the agenda. Let's look at the minutes from the meeting of October 5th. Any additions or deletions, comments regarding the minutes from October 5th? The last regular meeting. If none, can we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
And we have a motion, second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Communications list. As you're looking at the ZBA minutes, the variances for Division Street were denied. Thought that was of interest. Okay, as you're finishing up the communications list, just a reminder to get your training up to date for this year. You're required to get 4 hours per year. They do carry over. Mike, just a reminder that whatever you got for the village counts here too. So
Good.
you don't have to double up. And I think for the next meeting, I'll ask the clerk's office to get us a summary and see where we stand. Sometimes we want to make sure that when we submit training hours that it gets in there. Next meeting, we'll discuss the calendar for next year. That's it. Oh, there was training, speaking of training, there was training tonight. That doesn't help us. Maybe that's where Tony went. So let's get to our agenda. We have, first up, 10 Lancaster Parkway.
Good evening, Jeff Palumbo, on behalf of the petitioner. Very simple division of property, as you're all aware, dividing a larger parcel into two. There will be two structures. There currently are two structures with permission from the prior boards on the property. There was a question about final inspections and building permits. Those, I think, have been resolved. I know Matt has indicated in writing that the subdivision can proceed. And as long as that, I'm not even sure if we're still at the point of no final approval, but certainly we can have a recommendation from the board this time on the subdivision itself.
Yeah, I have his letter from July 29th, Matt's letter. So that all those items are taken care of? Or?
Well, not 100%, but they're working towards that end. I'm anticipating that by the approval, we should be ready for occupancy.
All right. Now, I know this goes way back, this minor subdivision. Did we do seeker already?
It was coordinated August 8th.
And there was a public hearing?
September. I had a note, public hearing 9/7/22.
Yeah, September 7th is what I have
Okay.
in the file.
And the public hearing was held? All right, so we can't go forward then?
Right.
Or not? Matt, you said there was one thing? What was the one thing? Can we go forward based on,
We could move forward. I think we still have to do seeker, right?
Yeah, we still have to seek on this.
oh, I thought we just said we did that. Or was that the-
No, the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
We've not done a secret.
All right, does anybody have any questions regarding the two-lot subdivision? Ed, we also,
Yeah, I'm fine.
Matt, anything else we should know? All right, so I guess we're going to have to table then, pending seeker, and then the same night as the seeker, we could do
Do
the
the recommendation.
recommendation.
That's fine. And we'll continue to finish up the inspection reports, so it's
Okay.
fine.
I will move to table to a future meeting. I don't want to give a date, get me in trouble. So can I have a second
A second.
on the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
See ya.
And next, we have the sketch plan for Stoney Road, the Stoney Road subdivision, 321 Stoney.
Good evening. Mark Romanowski here on behalf of Jack Doman. With me tonight, as well as Mike Metzger. We're here on a sketch plan review over a proposed subdivision on Stoney Road. And the overall site is a 25-acre site, and we're looking to propose 22 lots on there. Without getting into too much detail, I'd like to have Jack come up and just speak to a little bit about his vision for the property. Jack has owned this property since the mid-'80s and has sort of always envisioned a future development there, and I think the story that he can tell you about is pretty interesting. So I'm going to turn it over to Jack for a minute and let him tell that story.
Good evening. I'm Jack Doman, and I've been in the nursery business all my life. Most of the time has been spent in Lancaster. I owned Adam Nurseries for probably 41, 42 years. Sold it about 9 years ago, getting a little too much, and kept my Northtown Garden Center, which I had for almost 60 years. And I just always loved the property because I was a fanatic for planting all kinds of species of plants, all kinds of exotic plants and such, and some of them eating potatoes of the plants. And I'm a fanatic for wildlife as well. So it took a lot for me to put it up for prospective for sale for this. I love the turkeys and the squirrels and the chipmunks. I feed them all. But anyway, I guess when I decided, I just had to realize that I'm going to keep some people happy with a piece of property that they can call home, and essentially have the beauty of the woods. We have over 500 trees and evergreens on the property, most of them all mature or semi-matured as such, and we've maintained it. Before I stop talking, I'm going to pass out these here for you to get a little idea, sure, thanks, of what the property looks like. Thank you. It wasn't easy letting go of the prospect, but I know it will be in good hands, and I know the situation that we can have there will add to a lot of people being happy. Other than that, you can see by the property it's pretty well maintained, and I just keep adding plants every year to the property itself, and I think I'm maxed out as far as what I want to do as far as planting, and from this point on, just go on to the situation of being, having building lots and go from there. Some of the lots that we're proposing are pretty good size, and some are as much as 600 feet deep, so they got quite a bit of land to enjoy. So I hope that you can see the situation as such and understand the reason why I'm selling it. I'm 84 years old now, and I don't know how many more good years I got left in me. So I think this is the time that it's time for me to leave. Okay? Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Jerry. I just forgot to mention briefly as well, the zoning on the property is AR for the board's edification. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Metzger and let him get into the details of lot sizes, road arrangement, drainage, et cetera, so the board has some sense of that.
Thanks, Mark. So, as Mark mentioned, 25 acres, the land's good sized piece of property, zoned AR, zoned appropriately for this use. And we've been working on a plan for quite some time. Actually, we met with the town engineer and code enforcement officer a couple times just to make sure we were clear on town requirements and to try to make sure that we are presenting something that would be palatable. We obviously did, at one point, we had a plan that was consistent with the former code requirements as far as the lot sizes are concerned. So we have amended this, and this is in compliance with the lot sizes as recently changed this past year. The plan, just to give you some perspective on where we're at here, here's Stoney Road. Genesee is up probably around here, and Adams Nursery that Jack mentioned he used to own backs up, or we back up to Adams Nursery. The back part of Adams Nursery is over here. There is a large state wetland on the property down to the south, and actually this plan doesn't even encompass the full extent of the land. As Jack mentioned, some of these lots are going to be quite deep as they do extend into the state wetland. We recently had it redelineated by the DEC. They came out and confirmed the limits, and we have shown that on here. The darker area is where the state wetland is, and then the 100-foot adjacent area is shown with a dashed line. There is also a little bit of 100-year floodplain on the property, and that comes in, winds around, and affects a handful of the lots. There's an existing pond on the property here. Actually, Jack's home is right here, and as he mentioned, he's quite fond of the wildlife. Got a lot of ducks that come and visit him at the existing pond, which would remain untouched as part of this area that you would encounter as you come in off of Stoney Road. So we've got a road system that comes in with a cul-de-sac here and another that comes off of it with the 22 lots, obviously all placed on the new road system. Stormwater management, this would be in compliance. We've done some preliminary design work to determine what the size would need to be for the stormwater management facility, and we're showing that we would be placing a new stormwater pond at the back of this cul-de-sac over here. You also see this dark area here where Jack's got quite a beautiful stand of blue spruce and white pine that he would like to preserve. So that would remain preserved through deed restrictions on the lots to make sure that that's not, that those areas aren't touched. We've been in contact with both the Erie County Water Authority and the Erie County Department of Environment and Planning to make sure we're okay relative to capacities for sanitary sewer. There is sanitary sewer available, and there is, at the present time, adequate capacity and depth to serve the site. So we've got the infrastructure covered through water and sewer. We've got stormwater management already worked out. And as Jack mentioned, quite a few of the lots are pretty good size. We're talking about 22 lots on 25 acres. So we're pretty proud of what we're presenting here, and we're here for sketch plan approval. Matt has provided us with some comments on things. There are some things that we're working on that we will incorporate into the project now and moving forward. But any questions that you might have, we'd be happy to answer.
Members, any questions, comments?
Let the other guys go first.
Anybody?
This is going to be a private subdivision?
Actually, we're thinking that we'd like to propose public roads, right? And public infrastructure.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay. Number one, you've got a 100-foot buffer from the wetland that leaves lots 1, 2, and 3 without enough room to do anything on. You've got lots 1, 2, 3, 4, half of 5, and half of 22 in the floodplain. And even though I'm not the floodplain administrator, I have no intentions of addressing more properties in the flood zone unless you can prove that the depth of water is less than a foot. And then there would be no basins unless you got Lomars, and I'd rather not see a lot of fill going in. So I have strong reservations about this because Stoney Road floods at the bridge. I've seen from the bridge all the way down. It flows. It bypasses the bridge here and it flows over the road on both sides of the bridge. So you've got limited, you don't have flood-free ingress and egress guaranteed 24/7. I don't know what the elevations would be on your access road, but if people can't get in and out, that's not a place where you want to be putting more houses. The second thing is that there has been numerous requests to the Corps of Engineers to build a flood control project for Stoney Road, and I can promise you it's never going to happen. The cost-benefit ratio will never be met by the Corps, but if there was ever a FEMA project, it would be a buyout, and every house would be gone. So I'm not really interested in adding more people in harm's way by putting a subdivision in. And if there was another way to access the property from Genesee Street and then do just the northern part of this project, I'd be a little less reluctant to give you such a hard time. But I really have no interest in this.
Understood. Regarding the floodplain, as you correctly indicated, with the creek down here, that's the problematic area. The floodplain winds around and comes out here. Access would be, from the road, and then if it was flooded to the south, if anybody needed to leave, they certainly can go up to Genesee Street.
Not always. Not always.
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, the FEMA and working with the DEC more recently did very accurate mapping.
The mapping is better.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we're depicting that on here. And the areas that we're talking about on site, we would pursue a letter of map revision based on fill for those areas. And also, as I'm sure you're aware, the town's floodplain ordinance is one step above, more restrictive than the National Flood Insurance Program, where it talks of compensatory volume. We would comply. We would comply with those provisions to ensure that even with the fill that would be placed to build these homes, we would not be adding to the floodwaters because of that compensatory value.
Where would you put that?
Pardon?
Where would you put that storage?
Well, we're working on some areas, obviously out of the floodplain, the upland, upward areas above the floodplain, as we get into the formal design.
Because when it floods on Ellicott Creek, as you know, it has a lag behind the other streams. Cuga here is up and down before Ellicott even thinks about coming up.
And Ellicott stays for days.
The delay in the peak is like 3 days later.
Sure.
And then when it does flood, it floods for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
So that means it keeps coming. It means floodwater keeps coming down through here. And where are you going to put it when I've had a lot of folks talk about volume, but it's a discharge, as you know, and it just keeps coming. So how do you compensate for that?
Well, through the compensatory volume. For every cubic yard of fill we place in the floodplain that would be displacing 1 cubic yard of water during the 100-year storm, we will remove 1 cubic yard of fill that is
I get that.
that's above the outside the limits of the floodplain so that it balances.
Yeah,
There's a
the problem
zero
is-
net increase. Plus, as I mentioned, we've got a stormwater management facility in here that would be designed to
Right.
detain everything up to and including the 100-year storm, which in this pond is outside the limits of the floodplain, so that it would not be adding to the stormwater.
Right, but you're dealing with buckets of water as opposed to a hose, where you never shut the hose off.
The important thing, though, to realize is that
Is
there
it-
is zero increase in floodwater elevation as a result of this, because of the things
Is
that
this
we would
coming
be doing.
down, yeah, what I'm saying though is the water comes down the ditch and it's flowing past this site and flowing onto the site. It's not just sitting there, it's flowing. So you're doing a compensatory project which FEMA allows. I'm just saying that in reality, with global warming and other things, FEMA's brand new maps are already out of date. You know, and I'm not necessarily this one, but nationwide, they're out of date. They can't keep up with it. FEMA can't keep up with it because floods are bigger. The 100-year discharge is not the same 100-year discharge as it was with the old maps. But they haven't done, they can't keep up, I guess is all I'm saying. So my point is, even if the road is flood-free, and it has to be, you can't have floodwaters on your road and have people freaking out that they can't get in and out. This is not Amherst, where the houses sit up on little islands and you have to take a boat to get home. And I've seen that. So I'm saying that we've got properties in the flood zone, and even with filling and all the things that you just described, we still have lots 1, 2, and 3 without enough room to put anything in between the house and the 100-foot buffer. You can't fit the things that people want to have. And they're in the flood zone, so they wouldn't be able to have an in-ground pool. They wouldn't be able to have a lot of things unless you're planning on filling the whole lot. Or a portion of the lot that you
Well,
set off.
on the smallest of those 3 lots that you mentioned, 1, 2, and 3, which is 1, the smallest dimension from the front yard setback to the 100-year adjacent area it's over 100 feet. It's probably 125 feet on the farther side, and then each one of the other 2 and 3 lots, 2 and 3 are even more so, to the point where lot 3, you've probably got 300 feet back to the 100-foot adjacent area from the front setback line. There's plenty of space there to fit a home and whatever amenities that somebody might want.
Don't you need a 100-foot buffer between the,
Yeah,
This is the
that's what I'm
buffer.
talking, I'm measuring to the 100-foot buffer. This is the wetland line here.
okay.
What I'm talking about is to the 100-foot
So
buffer.
how much of a usable area there would you have?
From the front yard setback, you've got
No, go from the
100
back of the
feet.
house.
You've probably got 125 feet. Well, from the back of the house, if you have a 50-foot deep house, then on this side over here, you're probably 75 to 80 feet before you get to the 100-foot buffer.
Well,
Plenty of space.
that's what you think. Then they're encroaching into the buffer, then they're mowing, then they're doing whatever, and next thing you know, you've got sheds and you've got uses that shouldn't be there. And within the buffer, you're unlikely to get any permits from the DEC to do things in the
That's
buffer,
correct.
as you know.
That's correct.
So
Much more restrictive.
putting that right out there, people encroach into the buffer a lot. And there's buffer areas along Scajaquada Creek that for years, the DEC battled with homeowners to get them to quit mowing and quit trying to make it into a whatever, urban backyard with the buffer is there for a reason. It's not
Sure.
just to protect the residents from the wetland, but to protect the wetland from the residents.
Understood.
And how would you make sure that there's no encroachments, and don't say that's a DEC enforcement issue, because they don't have the staff to be doing that.
Well, I do have to say that. It is a
It
DEC
is a
enforcement
DEC,
matter.
and they would enforce it.
But that's something that we could talk to my client about and possibly put some deed restrictions on the property
Okay?
to ensure that there is no encroachment.
And monuments?
Yes, we
Maybe
could look at
maybe
monumentation.
monuments, both, maybe, I don't know whether you'd be doing, well, you have to monument the wetland boundary anyway, that's, we always require that. But I don't know about the buffer, if we would,
As Jack mentioned, and as I reiterated, he is a lover of the environment. He has taken it upon himself already to put markers out there. He's got massive boulders that he has put along the limits just to make sure it's clear to him and anybody out there
Of the
where the
wetland.
limits are. Yes.
okay, thank you.
Right, right. And, again, regarding the floodplain, we have the most current, the most up-to-date information that's available, the newest mapping here.
And that's-
And the regulations, we not only will comply with the National Flood Insurance Program, but the more restrictive town's requirements to make sure that we are not creating any problems for either people living here or people in the area.
I have a question then, would you be attempting to have lots 22 and 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4 removed from the flood zone first on fill? And then you're going to punch basements down in there and have basements in these lots? If you got them removed from the floodplain on compacted fill?
Yes.
So then FEMA says, okay, you filled this in, you compacted it as you put the fill in, it can't be dumped, and you get your certifications and you get these lots removed from the flood zone.
Right.
Then what builders want to do is they want to turn right around and say, well, it's not in the flood zone now, so they punch a big hole in and put it in a basement, and now you've got a basement in an area that's going to be wet. Below grade.
Which you can do because
Which
it
you
is
can do.
because it is no longer wet because you're above the flood elevation.
Right, but what are your soils like? If it's in a flood zone, the soils are usually pretty, I don't know what your soils are. And
I
you
would
don't have to
suspect.
tell me, you don't have
How
to tell me.
about, well, Jack, the soils?
Are the soils,
Clays over there?
We have no clay, you have to get down 5 foot for clay,
What do you have above that?
the sandy soil.
Okay.
a sandy loam, a sandy
Yes.
loam? Okay, I'm
I
finished.
think that's the way why Sand Ridge Road was named, that whole area. was
Absolutely.
sandy. They say at one time a beach ran through there. So who's to believe that or not, but anyway.
Where, here?
No, he's talking about Sand Ridge Road in Alden.
Oh, Sandridge Road.
Right.
Well, you had sand quarries just down the road from you here.
Sure.
I should mention that our chief of police has voiced concern with the historic roadway flooding and closures that occur regularly.
That acknowledged and appreciate the comment, but again, that's Stoney Road further south of us. There would be free access on Stoney to the north in Genesee Street, which is right here, and under those conditions.
All right, members, anything else? Ed?
I commented on for only the first 2 lots about the depth of the backyard, and that's just because, I end up seeing all the shed requests and the pool requests and everything else, and it just,
Right.
we end up, not arguing, but educating the residents about what they can and can't do. And then I will, just so the board's aware, because Becky used to talk about the Corps and then you talked about FEMA. The town has submitted for a FEMA grant. FEMA has grant money out there right now. It's a 2-phase grant. First phase is the study, which they've submitted for. But the way the grant is set up, that if that is funded, they automatically put aside the money for implementation. So we had to give them an estimate for that as part of the submittal. And what they're looking at, because the DEC did a study 3 or 4 years ago, maybe not that long ago actually, of Ellicott Creek all the way to into Amherst. And there was an area here from actually went from Harris Hill to pavement, that piece of Ellicott Creek. And zeroed in on Stoney to pavement is where it made sense to look at, I forget what they're called now, but putting in storage. The terminology's it's gone from my head all of a sudden. But putting in storage for flooding. So that's what the study's going to look at, if it's granted. And then if, like I said, if the cost benefit makes sense, then FEMA will fund the up to 80% of the construction.
Yeah, but it's not going to make flooding go away.
No, it just, it tries to control it.
It attempts.
Yeah, attempts to.
There's been studies on Ellicott Creek for years. There was the Sand Ridge Reservoir, for one, which was to capture floodwaters up by Sand Ridge and build a big reservoir in Alden to protect downstream. Never did fly, never will fly. Now the cost-benefit ratios are so hard to meet, much harder, because there's so much more development that has to be taken into consideration. So
Well, FEMA came out and looked at it, and they were encouraged.
it would be a good thing, but
Yeah.
it doesn't end it. It just
No,
makes
yeah,
it summer.
it tries to control
Does
it.
it lower the peak?
No, it wasn't, it had more to do with, well, it would lower the peak a little bit, more downstream. And it was more of a timing issue of letting some water get through and then controlling the outlet.
The 3 days?
Yeah,
of-
and controlling that a little bit, so it wasn't this rush coming downstream. But, the implementation estimate, $7 million.
Now, by the time something gets, if it gets approved, it could be much more.
Could be, yeah, I mean, you're talking to studies probably, well, you hear on the grant, hopefully within the next 6 months, and the study's gonna take a year,
Okay.
and then you're into design, and then you're into construction, so you're talking 4 or 5 years down the road.
There's a shelf full of studies on Ellicott Creek.
Matt, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I did provide some information on September 15th when we received the application. We weren't able to fully acknowledge receipt of that until we had some supplemental information provided with the documents. And I listed those out. I copied this board on it, and anybody that's going to be a part of the consideration for the project. So until that information is distributed, I can hold off on taking any action even on sketch plan. I did make a comment on the cross-section of the roadway that's proposed. Even if it is a private road, it does need to meet the minimum standards for the town for any roadway construction. And it would be beneficial for the applicant to submit their application for a conditional letter of map revision based on fill for the project, so it can move forward with any future decisions that need to be made on investment and moving ahead with the approval. Without that, I won't even look at the project. We've got to get this by FEMA. We have to have that no-rise clause. We have to be able to provide the compensatory storage and make sure that these things are lots of usable.
Okay, thanks.
So in answer Rebecca's question, the soil stuff, the report that was provided, 13 acres of the site is a very fine sandy loam soil, and the other 7.9 acres is a Manoa very fine sandy loam. It's basically sand,
It's well drained.
well drained.
Is there any rock there? No rock?
Not,
Depth to bedrock
Yeah.
was over 5 feet in the
yeah.
SEQA report.
We're pretty far from the escarpment, the Onondaga escarpment.
Right.
And yeah, as Matt mentioned, he had issued some comments. We're working on those and we'll make adjustments and resubmit based on those.
I don't know what our new highway superintendent thinks about cul-de-sacs, but I know the previous one wasn't happy with them.
We have a town standard here.
Pardon me?
We have a town standard
We do.
that allows either cul-de-sacs or a peak river.
I understand that. Tony always mentions it too. Like, it's not, we can't
Can't deny it.
deny it, but I thought I would bring it up.
You got the standards I sent you?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, what's your pleasure, members?
Well, I think if we're waiting for information, right?
So it's no action.
So I
We
think
take
it
no
it
action.
has to be kind of until we get everything.
Right? Yeah, we take no action. We just say, thank you, Mike.
So we don't officially table it? I mean, we could do that too
We
as well,
could.
but,
Then I motion we table. If
okay. We have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, on the question. Mike, are you aware of everything you need, that needs to be looked at at
Yes,
this point?
very clear.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to say no, because I think we should do no action.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just saying that. I think that instead of tabling a sketch plan review, we didn't have everything here. Doesn't matter.
I kind of wish we had that before we had the vote, but
kind of wish that too.
It doesn't matter. I did say we take no action, but it doesn't matter because it passed.
If it gets us to the same place.
It's the same place.
maybe you would have talked me out of it.
Oh, well.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sir. All right, next item is the concept plan for pavement near Broadway.
Good evening, John Barniak with Carmina Wood Design. With me tonight is Mr. Brian Young and Mr. Joe Young with Young Development. And we would like to introduce to the board a concept plan for a multi-family site development located at 6026 Broadway. The site is on the northwest quadrant intersection of Pavement Road and Broadway. The site is currently vacant except for a pole barn, I believe, currently. It used to be a residence that is no longer
It
there.
was the Smith residence.
North of the site, it's a senior housing, existing senior housing. There are residences to the east, to the west, and the Lancaster Country Club is to the south. The proposed development will consist of 5 two-story, 10-unit apartment buildings. It's a total of 50 units proposed on site. The site development is going to include 2 access driveways, one off of Broadway, one off of Pavement Road. The design for the site's going to include the stormwater management systems, utility improvements. We have, currently on this plan, we have 111 parking spaces. I believe that 61 are open space parking spaces. The other 50 are garage spaces within the buildings. Brian and Joe, if you have anything to add to it, or?
No, basically what the conceptual plan was is I just wanted to bring it in here. I know that the property's zoned correctly, but we did a landscaping plan, we did a landscape buffer on the plan. I believe we laid everything out according to the code. We are looking for a few variances in here, but I just thought we'd bring it in here. I always like to see what the planning board has, if they had some ideas of tweaking something. And these units are a pretty high-end unit here. They start at about $1,800 a unit for a 1-bedroom, and they'll go up to about $2,600 for a 3-bedroom. So this we also own Edgewater Apartments right down the street. So we're actually calling this Edgewater East. So these particular buildings are what we just built on Transit Road, right behind Dave's Christmas store on French and Transit. It's the same building. There's a good need for it. Everybody has their own entrance. There's no common area in through here, so everybody goes into their own unit.
They're granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, 9-foot ceilings. It's very independent. So that's kind of what we came up with. We've done our borings over there, so our borings all came back good. We didn't hit bedrock, or we didn't get anything too crazy through there. There is a wetland over on the right-hand corner that we are working with Scott Livingstone to mitigate. He believes there isn't a wetland there, but we'll have the Corps take a peek at that one, what is it, the northwest corner. Yeah.
Could you show your traffic patterns inside? I just can't see that well.
Yeah, so we were coming in, and we were coming along both ends of the property, in the rear and in the front.
So the off of Broadway, you can come up and you can exit onto pavement?
Yeah, you would come out the backside of pavement, which I think gave us about maybe about 500 feet before we got to the red light.
Okay, so the internal traffic pattern is two ways in and out, and inside you can drive within.
Yeah, and a fire truck turns.
Okay.
So we designed it all around, the public safety.
What's the shaded part of the entryway there?
It's just heavy-duty pavement
Oh, okay.
for garbage.
All right, gotcha.
And they're 2 stories, and, right behind us is Clover Senior facility there. So we were doing a pretty substantial buffer of trees along the back there. And all of our apartment communities, we do a lot of trees and landscaping.
All right, as a concept plan, you actually have given us a lot more than we usually get, for a concept plan. But we would not vote on this at this time. Matt, have they submitted all the?
No, basically what was presented tonight, I have a hard copy of it. I gave it a quick review. We just have a parking lot setback. Variance. Yeah. That's all it is. Setback variance. That's the only variance that's required. The comments that I would make are going to be pretty standard with any site plan submittal. Keep in mind, we have the access management overlay district along Broadway, so any adjoining properties to the west, we want to think forward for possible access agreements.
All right, any other comments from the members? No. Ed, anything?
No, not at this point.
All right, well, I think if we have no comments for him, the next step would be to come in with your sketch plan, or,
Sketch
plan.
Yeah.
For site plan, right?
Site plan, whatever.
So my understanding is from this point, we go to full engineering drawings?
You can go to full engineering drawings.
So that's why I just thought if there was something that jumped out at the planning board that you were looking at, but like I said, everything was within code except the setback
And the density.
and the density.
Have I seen this at home? Did you
I'm not
guys
sure.
get this?
This
No,
is not
we haven't
familiar.
seen this before.
I dropped it off, there's a copy of it.
Yeah, but we didn't get this before, so
Oh, okay.
I didn't really get a chance to look at it. So I think we're at concept plan, which means you're coming back with sketch plan.
Yeah,
Site plan.
Site plan.
So that's where I get a little
Okay.
confused.
So
So
with your letter, somebody to give a copy to the planning board chair or review?
No, this was, like Brian said, the intent of this was just to introduce this project to the board.
did we send a letter with the 4 copies?
Yeah, but it wasn't formal, site.
It was an
okay,
application.
got the-
We don't actually have an application.
Yeah, on agenda tonight, right, for review.
Well, I'm just confused, and I don't think I threw it away by mistake.
actually, I got.
Okay.
Well, we have these copies that we can certainly give you one, because we can make
Well,
them at our facility.
When you submit, we'll all get them.
Yeah, once site plan comes in.
Yeah. So it's okay. I just was thinking, I cleaned my office, and I think, oh my God, did I throw it away?
We can't make any promises, but I
No.
think at this point we would say it's time to move forward.
Sure.
That doesn't guarantee anything, but at this point. we
Nothing
can't-
jumps out.
Yeah, we're not-
This is not like, no, you can't do it because it's So here's the 5 reasons why.
Correct. So this property was rezoned to multifamily a year or two ago. Otherwise, I thought we were coming in for a complete rezone. So when we got it under contract, we thought we were coming through a complete rezone. But the town, somebody had already rezoned the property to multifamily.
We updated our zoning map and zoning code in 2020 to reflect what we
Right.
built on.
Correct. So we're just coming, we're just coming in here, but I guess we'll come back again for site plan with full engineering drawings, right, Nick? All right. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, we have time for discussion of some various items. The first one on the agenda was the RV code. Anybody have any comments on this issue?
Really the ones I've made, I think we need to go with a zone approach versus a blanket.
Pardon me?
The previous comments I made kind of off the cuff that when we evaluate this, I think we need to go with a zoned approach per neighborhood versus just a blanket,
Okay.
for all of Lancaster. I don't think it fits.
I'm just thinking we need to have a public hearing on this and
We do.
and listen to the public hearing and then before we make any decisions. And perhaps even maybe just a committee, an ad hoc committee for this purpose, and then we can go from there. What's your pleasure? What would you rather do at this time? I don't know legally if we can set or recommend to the town board that they set a public hearing on this issue, or would they come into the planning board? Usually we don't hear those public hearings.
Yeah, I don't know if we can set a public hearing on this.
We don't really have a model local law or anything we're looking at. We're just asking for comments.
Yeah.
You could call it public information meeting,
Yeah,
not call it a hearing.
A couple of workshops.
Yeah.
yeah.
That way, both
Yeah.
boards could get together and you could invite the public in and do what you want.
I think it'd be nice to present the public with a couple of options versus just having them speak. It's because that can go another way. But if we say A, B, or C, listen, we got to do something.
Yeah, kind of like when they did that sidewalk thing, they had it.
I was just gonna, that's what I was thinking of, yeah.
But I don't know how to get to that point where we have options.
I think your idea of a committee is probably the way to go because it's going to require some extra time and research.
I would do it, but I have no expertise in this area, and I don't feel like.
Well, we could ask for, we've seen what the other communities have, and you're saying like in an area, correct me if I'm wrong, am I hearing you say that in an area that might be a more dense development, you want a different set of rules than the...
Absolutely, yeah, lot sizes, density, access. I know there's one on my street, it doesn't bother anyone, but if 3 or 4 people had one, it would be tough to get around. So, I think it does matter. And that's tough because you can't, my initial thought was we just do it by like residential or, AR, or like we can't even divide it that way because the properties are kind of cattywampus with all the development. You can't really say what's what.
And then I turned around one day and said, oh, I'm residential now. And our lots are big. And my
Right.
neighbors have had their units in their yards for longer than I've lived in the town of Lancaster.
This would almost require a giant map of Lancaster, like a lot line map, and people to go through with a pen and just.
Or how about a generic standard that, I'm just throwing this out there, that you could park your unit in your yard if you can get it behind the house or behind the garage, and have a setback, have a performance standard, like a certain setback from the side yard and a certain distance from the right-of-way and the sidewalk and the where there are sidewalks, and maybe in either or, where there's no sidewalks. I know, I said last time, my neighbor built another gravel pad, moved his behind the garage.
Right.
After it had been next to the garage for 40 years.
Yeah.
But the subdivision near me, people have them in their driveways, as long as they don't go over the sidewalk. People don't really complain too much, but you can't see if you're the guy next door trying to back out.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of,
A lot of issues.
there's a lot, and then for your, you know, for the idea of putting it in the backyard, for the neighborhood that butts up against another backyard. Because like Matt said last week, the goal of this rule is to prevent conflict, and
Right.
can't
Well,
foresee.
do we know what other comparable towns have done?
Yeah, we,
With RV stuff?
Well, Matt's on this.
Matt's-
Oh, I didn't see
I
it
don't
yet.
want to go ahead, everybody's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Attached to the email, just to review, just understanding what the other towns are doing, given their individual situations.
It's a bit wordy.
Very important.
I know. It's killing me. So, I mean, I would volunteer some time to work on it a little bit personally, but I don't have a vested interest. I don't get camping, but I understand people love it. So,
I don't have one, I could work with you,
okay.
you know?
Why don't I contact Councilman Mazer and see what direction we want to go in. I'll mention that we have a couple of volunteers and see what kind of committee he wants to set up. And then we'll go from there. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, the Chapter 140 revision, talk about wordy. The model local law establishing a local government code enforcement program. Any comments? Anybody know? Matt, you want to summarize?
You know, they update this document at every adoption of a code cycle. So when ICC provides whatever version, they'll get to, the state usually lags maybe 2 to 3 years behind that. We're currently in the 2018 code, we're calling it the 2020 code. And this is going to basically bring the program up to date. If we remember, if we were even around back in the 80s, 84, 87, they combined the building code and the fire code, and it became the uniform code. And that was the beginning of the mandates to the municipalities. This is how you will administer the state code. So at every cycle, they come through and they make the recommended changes. And this year, they're requiring all municipalities to have the adoption completed by December 20th. Whether you had previous versions adopted and what have you. The last one that we did an update on was in 2007. There was 2-3 code cycles ago. This will just be the latest and greatest. It's going to incorporate some technical information. A lot of the other language that's in there is just semantics, I should say, or even just typographical corrections, the definition here and there, and what have you. I've also proposed a look at the fee structure, the way that the fee levels are for the town. They haven't been looked at in decades, and they really do not offset the costs of actually processing a permit, doing inspections. So I was able to provide some amendments to our current permitting portion of the code. We would have to make that code amendment. During the discussion, and this year with the town attorney and Councilman Mazer, we've been floating around the idea of just providing a fee schedule that the town board can adopt on an annual basis. But unfortunately, time constraints and the end of year looming quickly, I just could not dial that in and get something, in anybody's hands to review. So some of the amendments to the permitting and fees portion of the town code were provided. And we're going to look at those and comment them. We'll change the code perhaps this cycle, and in the future years, maybe if the town board wishes, we can go to the fee schedule, just so that we don't have to make a change to the local law to adjust a fee.
Right, right.
All right, so what do we do? Where do we go from here? Can we make a recommendation? Or do we need-
Personally, I'll request a recommendation to the town board and adopt it, or, move forward to the public hearing portion.
Do we need a public hearing before we can recommend adoption?
The town board will hold a hearing.
Town board does. No,
Okay.
that's,
All right.
it's a local law.
All right,
so it's-
I move that the town board, I move that we recommend that the town board move forward on this.
Right.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. All right, the unified solar permit. It's another one, I'm not sure exactly what we're doing here, but I think we're being asked to confirm that we are okay with this and recommend it to the town board as well. Correct?
I mean, I went through the drafts and, in some places, whoever was playing with the draft has filled in the town of Lancaster, and most of it's still not that stage yet, but I couldn't see anything that raised any flags or anything, and I don't really even understand it that well.
Well, fundamentally, what this does, we're adopting the uniform solar permit. We're already operating under this policy since our early trainings to permit residential rooftop photovoltaic systems. I use the identical checklists. I pride myself in being one of the most efficient municipalities in turning around a rooftop solar permit. Once you get the fundamental understanding of what's required on a submittal and what the contractors are required to install, it's very simplistic. And this just lines us up with the NYSERDA requirements. It helps the town with future grant opportunities. We're able to get some points towards our clean energy classification, certification. Stuff in the right direction.
All right, can we have a motion on this one?
What is the next step?
Or just recommend it to the
Recommend
town
approval.
board?
Recommendations of the board to move forward with the adoption process.
So moved?
I so moved. I am so moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. All right, the local law amending the town code related to certain zoning approvals under section 400 to clarify the time for an applicant to request an approval extension. I got a copy of that today. I forgot what the, what was it, 30 days or something like that, was it? Before the,
There was a time limit that was installed there, and there was also a slight policy change where the application should be made to the town board. The town could refer it back to the planning board, but it could be an administrative extension. Just
All right.
Cleaning up the nomenclature.
Right.
anybody have any questions on this one?
No, I read it.
I think we'll do this separately, because there's two parts to this. There's also the model. So this first one deals with the extension. Let me just look at your, yeah, the extension for an applicant, approval extension. All right, so can we have a motion to recommend approval of that? Now, do we need a seeker on any of these, or? I thought I heard that one.
Which? Okay. Oh, so both these last two ones, yes. I guess we need a seeker.
So we do need seeker?
I guess so for a town, or for local laws, we'll need a seeker. So these last two discussion items.
And all we could do is,
Then we can't recommend until we do the secret.
if indeed we need it.
All right, why don't we, I would say, let's recommend the approval pending seeker. And if it's not needed, then we've already recommended. If it is needed, then we just have to do seeker, and we'll come back and reiterate our motion. So I'm going to move that we recommend approval of this. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, then the last thing is the model, what is it, the model home permit?
Yeah.
So my take on this is, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that, say they're putting in a subdivision, so they want to put the model home up there first, so the town board can issue a temporary permit for the model home.
They can authorize our department to issue this permit prior to the acceptance of the improvements, taking ownership of the roadway.
All right, so it doesn't guarantee that the rest of it's going to be approved.
Well, this is already after the subdivision is approved and the map cover is filed.
Right.
This is again going to be during the installation of the improvements. The developer can request a model permit to at least start one of the products in the development.
Okay.
Yeah, it's before the infrastructure is accepted by the town.
By the town.
Yeah, roads, and water, sewer.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this one? Do we have a motion?
The only comment I have is that there may be a typo in section 2, subletter F. Planning board is listed twice.
Yeah.
Planning board recommendation, planning board and the planning board shall.
I did see that, yeah.
I saw that.
Maybe cleaning that up, just make that a condition of the recommendation.
All right, so anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion that after the language is, or the typo is corrected, that we recommend approval.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Got that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one's carried. I think that's it for agenda items.
Yep.
Ed, you wanted to discuss some items about seeker?
Yeah, just a thought process for seeker, in that typically the way we've done seeker is that, we've waited till all the coordination's been done, and then we take the form and we go through the questions, and at the end of the day, we make a decision. We have the ability to hold seeker open. Open it, go through the questions. You may have questions, and you just table it. I mean, and I give you as an example, the project across from Hillview High School, that project, that seeker was open for a year and a half. And at the end of the day, it was neg-decked. But they took that year and a half to address, traffic was a big issue, and there was they made internal changes to the layout, and they did this, they did that. But that's the vehicle that this board would have to go back to a developer and say, hey, we want you to change this, we want you to change that, because as you go through those questions, and typically it's traffic, maybe water, sewer, and then you've got the two questions, and they're always about, is it in character with the neighborhood? Well, there may be something that you want tweaked to make it more in character with the neighborhood.
So as opposed to a positive declaration, you can just leave it open and...
Yeah, and use it as a back and forth until you're happy with the project.
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, okay, now you're good, you neg-deck it if that's where you're going, and turn around and approve the project.
Okay.
So it's a way, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's a way that there's something that we're not happy with, but rather than pause deck it and have to go through the whole
EIS, right.
which is expensive for the town, not just...
Oh, it's expensive for both parties, and it's time consuming, and lots of times it's over technical tweaks, and, you change the layout here, change the driveway here, it's all a lot of little minor stuff. I mean, if there's some major environmental issue, obviously
That's different.
you'll know that right up front, you know. But usually it has to do with, you know, you're not happy with the project because, you know, I mean, a perfect example, this is Stoney Road subdivision, you got these first two lots, I mean, you had the same comment I did. I'm not real happy with the first two lots, I don't think they're usable. So you open up seeker and you get into some of those questions and you go, this question applies to these two lots, we have some issues.
Right, right. And I'm thinking also William Street,
Oh, William Street's another one, yeah, I mean,
Where-
Field Stream.
Field Stream, where the traffic issues keep changing. William Street is deteriorating, wait till snow. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and here we are putting more houses in. And sometimes some of the issues can be mitigated through changing the speed limit or something, you know? All those things. So if you're saying the secret is held open,
It's just held open.
Then-
You just table it. You get, you know, you open it, you start going through the questions, and you get to the end, and you don't have to make a determination. You just, we're gonna table our determination until the questions are answered.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah, thanks.
I think it's very good.
Anything else on that?
No, that was it, really, just, you know, just a different approach to seeker.
Matt, you have any other? Okay. In 2 weeks. we're gonna meet. Okay.
It's actually 3.
You can't get it, you just can't.
This month.
No, this time I think it's only 2, isn't it?
We got extra week in there, I think.
It's not, I don't think so, until the end of November. Today's the 19th, so the 26th.
Or maybe you're the first meeting in November.
And the 2nd, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
2nd, so it's only 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're the first meeting. Back work follows.
So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Will anyone see Dave Mazur?
Next week.
Okay. I think this was on the desk on Monday, and I picked it up with my papers. It has his name on it, so I'm not sure if it's, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's from Monday's meeting.
I was gonna contact him, but, regarding the other issue, but if you actually are gonna see him,
We'll see him on Thursday.
okay. Okay, you better take it then.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you never. No, you would never, regardless.
Doctor's running an hour.
Are you going to propose it?
Okay, so then 20 minutes later, this is what about the doctor, 20 minutes, hour and a half behind.
Oh, is
Oh,
that-
everybody else canceled. You moved
The
up.
guy in the maroon.
But I still took a long
Oh, he's seen it already.
Matt?
and everything like that. But